Many believe that the coronavirus pandemic has changed life as we know it irrevocably, and that in this seismic shift lies the opportunity to turn things around, improve our world, and make life better for the majority, especially in poor countries. It is time to reboot Nigeria. This is Pivotal. The global workplace has evolved significantly. There have been changes in technology, the labor market, and general global environment, and this has birthed new trends in education in the international space. But a close look at tertiary education in Nigeria suggests our education is lagging behind. Inadequate infrastructure, low-quality teaching, and obsolete curriculum appear to ensure we are not producing students equipped for the world we live in. It seems clear that some sort of reform is required, but what exactly needs to happen? On Pivotal today, I'm joined to try and answer that question by the Minister of State for Education, Honorable Chukwuemeka Nwajoba, and Mr. Abubakar Suleiman, the Managing Director of Sterling Bank. The bank recently launched an initiative that focuses on equipping high school leavers and fresh graduates of tertiary institutions with relevant skills for the workplace of the future. First, let me start with the Honorable Minister. Do you agree that our education as currently structured is not fit for purpose?
It's a matter of, would I say, appreciation. When you say purpose, you allude to a preconcept that there is some purpose to education. To that extent, it would not be proper to say that our education is not fit for purpose. But purpose also is something that alters with how society develops. And we've found out that in actual developmental terms, what our purpose for education has begun to also evolve, because the way of doing things also have altered a little bit. Now that demands that we refit our education in order to also meet these new purposes. The challenge of the education in ministry has been and is being met by repeatedly continuing to retool those educational standards in order to produce what our new challenges are. Because now you would expect that
we are actually doing that successfully. So
sure.
independence was over 50 years ago, and like you said, the design for education then is different. 50 years on, are we nimble enough? Are we changing fast enough to be able to produce the quality of pupils, students that we need for today's world?
Admittedly, we can't actually be on pace, because the problem with the good thing is that knowledge produces knowledge. Knowledge is the father of new knowledge. Once you know this, it becomes obsolete. Then that you use this knowledge now to create new knowledge. One knowledge begets another. And that's what this is about. You improve on what you get.
Abubakar Suleiman in here and ask him the same question, because he's an employer of labor and he's recently involved in trying to set up a system that allows him take students from fresh graduates, but also secondary school leavers, and equip them for the present employment space. Do you think Nigerian education, as presently constituted, is fit for purpose, Mr. Suleiman?
Thank you very much for asking. The Honorable Minister has spoken with clarity about where we're coming from, and I don't disagree with him. I think he's absolutely spot on in saying that the education system we run today was designed in the 50s and 60s to serve a particular purpose. What I can say with certainty is that as an employer of labor, I'm not receiving graduates from universities that are tooled even for the job that they're supposed to have been trained for. So when I get graduates of banking and finance, I can't take them straight to work for me as bankers because they are not tooled even for banking and finance. I then have to go through an extensive process to retrain them to be able to do that. So even if we agree that the purpose is to create workforce for the white collar jobs, we do have a problem there. But the bigger question for me is that I see two primary purposes for education. One is the need of the society, which is represented by the government, but extends beyond the government. How do we create citizens that are tooled to contribute to the building of the society? And if we look at the quality of people that we have today, the quality of the society, if we look at the level of competence that is exhibited, if we look at the level of empathy, or if we look at the level of corruption, it seems to me that the societal reason for education is not being delivered. It seems to me that as a collective, we do not have the quality of people that the society desires to have that will lead the society forward. The second reason, or the second purpose for me, would be for the individual, which is the desire to earn a good life, to be able to earn a living and be able to, participate in society. And that will be measured by the quality of employment that people are able to move into once they've graduated. Unfortunately, we run a society where we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that have come through our educational system that are unemployed. But at the same time, we have a scarcity of certain skills, and we're going cross-border in many cases to hire people. So there is a disconnect between what the society requires and what the educational system is delivering. And I think we need to come together to close that gap. Specifically, when I say we need to come together.
Let me ask the Honorable Minister here to come in and to ask him whether the Federal Ministry of Education is occupied in trying to answer some of the questions raised by Mr. Abubakar Suleiman and closing that gap that exists between education and what the workforce actually needs and what society needs.
This is exactly the point. Mr. Suleiman is reading the situation correctly. You start out with a process. What we have is a process that produces what we designed children to be. When you come out of school, from the time this was designed to the next 10 years, when you're gone through, society has moved on a little bit. So every epoch has taken new people on and retrained them, tooling them a little bit more further. The key things education must give to you as you live: numeracy, literacy, and logical sequencing. Those are your tools. Those are foundational tools that you then move on to others to do. You become a specialist in different things. You become skilled in different things. You acquire new tools to be able to do new things, new challenges. The way we used to watch, if you were trained, for instance, or if you were a skilled person at mounting televisions in the 1960s, as television became things to mount on the wall, you need to acquire those kind of skills. You need to learn them, but you have to have a base with which you are able to progress learning, which is what the Ministry of Education and the entire education system is designed to provide you, not with teach you everything. Education can never be completely taught in one classroom.
If I understood you clearly, what you seem to be saying is that, in your view, there doesn't seem to be any urgent need for fundamental reform in the way Nigeria's education is structured, because from your perspective, the basics that education is supposed to teach is still in place, and it is then up to people when they're out there to retool themselves or re-educate or even educate themselves further to be able to fit into the current work environment. Would that be correct? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you're correct to some extent, but that's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying, look, we have the foundation. We can't teach you everything in a university. That's one. But we have to teach you some. But there are basic things that you need to know. And we must take you through those from primary one. We are not going to start teaching you artificial intelligence at primary one. We need to teach you to read and write so that even if you're going to be writing on a computer tomorrow, you can recognize letter A.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Abubakar. Mr. Abubakar, do you agree that education as currently structured is giving us the foundation that is required, and that there's a way in which we cannot start to teach things like AI at the beginning until we get that foundation in place?
I mean, one cannot deny with the honorable minister, disagree with the honorable minister on the need to have foundational knowledge. And I think we are fully aligned there. However, as we sit on this end of it, what I can say to you is that 90% of those that we come across don't actually seem to have that foundational knowledge. And what I mean is that basic things like being able to communicate properly, or being able to even use a computer, not to do artificial intelligence, just send an email on a computer. We found it to be lacking. And we also look at how they think and whether or not they have actually acquired the capacity for critical thinking. And we also find that to be lacking. So there is a problem with what is intended and what the system is producing. But that is a smaller problem. The bigger problem is the intent itself. I don't believe that the educational system that was structured over a century ago is adequate for today's world. I think given the way the world itself has changed, given the way the tools that we now have access to have sort of changed over time, I think we need to completely rethink whether we should still be following the same set of processes, because the process in my mind has become obsolete. And the bigger picture is that I don't need to be training people for what the workplace is hiring today. I need to be training people for what the workplace is going to hire in 5 years' time or in 10 years, because that's when they're going to be in the workplace. And I don't think that conversation is happening. And I think part of it is because there is no sit down today. We're not having a round table with those who are preparing to build the businesses of 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now to discuss what their needs are and feeding that into what the schools are then designed to produce.
Honorable Minister, Mr. Abubakar Suleiman has a point, doesn't he? As policy makers, shouldn't you be engaging with people who employ labor so that there is a connect rather than a disconnect between what is happening, especially in our tertiary education institutions, and what is happening in the workplace? For example, we have huge unemployment figures. I think something like 13 million. 2.9 million of those 13 million that are unemployed are actually graduates. And yet we talk to employers of labor and they tell you that they have vacancies, but cannot find the skilled personnel to fill those vacancies.
Again, I say it seems we have reached some sort of convergence here, because I read Mr. Abubakar properly, and I think what he's saying is actually true. That's actually a challenge for the country. What has happened to Nigeria is that the society, people have socialized differently. People no longer toe the line of technical skills solely. They got caught up in this idea that everybody needs a degree, because government became the biggest employer. People weren't being rewarded for their skills. So everybody started pursuing something that was completely not sustainable. We have 2.2 million people in the universities. Every year, JAMB applications exceed 1.6 million. The total number of jobs available in the public service is below 1 million. So even if you sack everybody every year, you can still take on everybody every year. Just having given you that sort of background, what are we trying to do? We're trying to make access to STEM education all around a little bit easier. We're trying to make it because we're now offering most of them for free. We're financing more equipment in the place, and we're bringing in private sector to come and partner with us in almost all the institutions where we have a lot of equipment where there are no students at. We're now using our technical colleges and technical schools to provide some of the things we need. I came back from Ijaniki yesterday, where we are asking the science laboratory school we have to become a provider of science equipment to other schools. So now we can take in more people in that direction. We're not using all of government approach, because the federal government, for instance, has now started a program that will encourage building with local infrastructure. Everything now has to be more or less use local money to finance local products.
So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we will examine whether those changes are radical enough to reboot education in the way that experts said is needed in Nigeria. Don't go away. Welcome back to Pivotal, where I'm in conversation with the Honorable Minister of State for Education and the MD of Sterling Bank on education and ensuring that we have a system that works for today and also for the future. Welcome back, gentlemen, to Pivotal. Now, before the break, Mr. Abubakar, we heard the Honorable Minister describe in detail some of the policies that they are pursuing, some of the changes they're bringing about in order to try and solve the problem of education in Nigeria. Are these changes radical enough, in your view, to be able to take us to nirvana, if you like, and give us the sort of education that we need for today, but also which prepares our children and grandchildren for the future?
Thank you. I would have to argue that for our educational intervention to be enough, it has to be sufficient for us to compete with the best, whether they are from Finland or South Korea or wherever it is that they might be. And at this point, we are not at that point where we are able to compete. And if you can't compete, what then happens is that you are disadvantaged in a global economy. So there is more to be done. So I think the first thing for us to do is to ask what is in the best interest of the society. And we seem to agree that training and educating people so that they can become unemployed, it's not in the best interest of the society. If we have that agreement, the second question has to be, does the government have enough money to educate everyone? And the answer to that is clearly no. So the limited resources they have, I would argue, should be applied to the part of society that will generate economic activity, because that is the way the government itself stays in business and subsequently can expand education to all. And then the last question for me is that, should the institution that we know as university today, should that be the only way that we can actually produce graduates? Shouldn't we rethink it such that places of employment, whether they are even corporate employment like a bank, for instance, or it is the same vocational jobs, can also become places that would lead to the award of a university degree or a first degree, as it were, if certain things
now,
are...
You are involved in a scheme that allows you to do that. And so maybe in explaining your scheme, you can explain how that would exactly work.
So our thought process was to support what the government is doing by saying, if a child graduates with a very decent performance from secondary school at the age of anywhere between 16 to 18, we could take on these kids as an alternative to university, put them on internship so that they are working within a corporate, they are learning the required skills to be able to perform as employees in that corporate. But at the same time, they are able to go to a university, working with the many universities that have been approved to operate online. And we give them financing, because we also recognize that a lot of these smart children may not have the funding behind them. So by bringing in finance, bringing in real life experience, and bringing in technology, which is now clearly something we cannot do without, we're then able to create kids that spend 3 to 4 years in a workplace, have 3 to 4 years worth of experience, have a university degree at the end of the day, and would have actually earned something in that period. So they actually learn the value of money and the discipline of working.
Given the scale of the problem in education, do you actually think you're being radical enough and disruptive enough? Because there are many who believe Nigeria is running out of time when it comes to solving her problems, whether they are in education or in health or in other sectors, and that we don't seem to be dealing with these issues with the urgency that they deserve. Do you agree?
Right now, like, I will explain to you because there's no problem like that's not a Nigerian problem. The problem of education is actually a health problem as well, and I will explain. Immediately the borders open, we're going to lose doctors. It's just given because some of them have been escaping from Cotonou to because once this is like recolonialism once again. Almost all the manpower, 65,000 medical doctors have left Nigeria. Engineers, people leave Nigeria as long as there is better pay for. I've told you this is the world is controlled by pay, and the Western world has better pay. So as soon as anybody finds better pay, they leave this country, and it seems that we can't produce enough. So we keep producing manpower, no matter how limited. So we're left with those who can't move. Now we are here, and you can't disrupt the carrying capacity of universities, for instance, to produce doctors. We can only produce 3,500 a year. If you want to increase that capacity, for instance, radically, you will change the entire way you learn medicine, which is you move away from clacking live bodies and cadavers into simulated learning.
So let me put you a bit on the spot because, we've got a policy maker with us, we've got a minister with us. If you were sitting and advising government on the sort of role that they should play in rebooting Nigerian education right now to a place where you, as a private sector employer, you would be happy, and in a place where that Nigeria begins to sort of produce the kind of graduates that are productive and help us build the sort of community that we can all be proud of. What are the sort of 3 things that you will say to them? Can you focus on this as government?
Well, the first thing for me would be to advise government to stop building the 3rd floor of a building when the foundation is collapsing. I think more than anything else, the most damaging thing we're doing is that we're putting resources in building the 2nd and the 3rd floor, and we've got a really bad foundation. So I would be glad if the government produces the best primary school and potentially the best secondary school, and say to the private sector, you're going to have to be responsible for tertiary education. And I think such quality coming out of secondary school will make it very easy for funding to happen. The minister spoke about an educational loan board, for instance. The private sector is willing and able to do this. We just need to be sure that what comes in is great. The second one for me would be there is a social problem or a societal problem where having a university degree has almost become a requirement for everything. If you take someone who you want to marry, people are interested in whether or not he has a university degree. So the government needs to attack this by taking the degree to the people so that people don't have to go to the university or to the campuses to get degrees. Let's find a way to get people to acquire the knowledge they require so that they are able to receive a graduate degree even while they are learning to become a plumber, or they are learning to become mechanic, or to become solar installer, or to become bankers. So we cannot take the university degree and take it to the people wherever they are learning these relevant skills, show them the requirements so that they can come out with a university degree and they will meet both requirements. One, to have a source of living, and the second one is to be respected by the society. And the third one is to say to the existing university to say that, look, the product that is coming out of you, it's not enabling economic growth. And without the economic growth, we cannot continue to sustain your cost. Therefore, you must find a way to collaborate with the people who are producing the skills that the society needs to create economic growth. And working with that, you not only improve that process. So, for instance, the internship process and the process of acquiring the skills that are needed can be improved because of bringing in university-style skills or learning or research. But at the same time, then give them an opportunity to end up with a degree. So to my mind, we can solve the problem. The government must first fix the foundation, because it's really hard for private sector to fix the foundation, which is the primary and the secondary education.
And in 2023, when the term of this government ends, are we going to look back and say that within the time you had left, you made a difference to the education sector and that we've seen changes from what you inherited?
Truly speaking, I believe this government has done a terrific job. The challenge of the Buhari administration from 2015 was to set the country right. First of all, you have, like he pointed out, have a foundation. The challenge of 2023 will be to come to the same platform, but now a platform that is now stable. You come with renewed energy, with renewed enthusiasm. You will come with people with empathy with what is available and energize that system. What we're trying to do is that since the Buhari administration has now settled some of the key issues that are sitting, TSA, IPPIS, the foundational issues, the base work has been done. We think in 2023, we will take up this mantle and run with it, as in this is new energy, the same enthusiasm or even more enthusiasm.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of State for Education, Chukwuemeka Nwajoba, and Mr. Abubakar Suleiman, MD of Sterling Bank, for discussing education on Pivotal today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.